has done the investigation, and when they finish that, they give recommendations to all the groups or parties involved to help them improve their situations to resolve the miscommunication issues, and mainly, especially for the two groups, SIA and CKS Airport. And here, I selected some relevant accomplishments for them to improve the miscommunication issues here. And as for SIA, they amended their checklist for all the crew in the cockpit to require them visually confirm the correct runway designation before they take off. And they also amended the flight crew operating manual to formally require the pilot taxiing the craft to refer to signage and markings, and also require the other pilot to confirm the correct taxi route. And the third, the flight crew operating manual has also been amended to formally document the procedures, instructions, and the training curriculum for ground operations in the poor visibility conditions. And as for CKS Airport, they have done a lot to improve their infrastructure and facilities. And mainly, they did something like this. They painted new runway and taxi center line marking, and they improved their airport lighting system, especially on the 05 runway. And then they improved their airport pavement. They set up the intersections and the taxiways and the roads. And they also improved their traffic control system. And after all the analysis and the improvements they have made, what conclusion do they get from this tragedy? And our conclusion is that besides the infrastructure weather and other physical factors, the lack of communication and miscommunication issues among the human factors remain a very significant part of this tragedy. And although we cannot avoid 100% avoidance of such miscommunication, aiming for sufficient and more accurate communications should be always kept in our mind. So that's all our presentation, and here are our references. We use mainly this aircraft accident report for our resources, and that's all. Thank you for your attention, and let's.
So any questions?
I think
go back to the slides of your coverage.
Accomplishment.
No. What is it related to communication?
Because you see from the Yiming's part, he has analyzed the visual miscommunication, and the visual miscommunication is partly due to this lack of infrastructure, kind of like the center line marking, the lightning. There are some misleading part in this part, and the CKS Airport, they do not correspond to the international standards. So after this accident, they improved in this part.
what kind of refresher trainings can you do to mitigate miscommunication between the ATCs and the pilots?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What kind of refresher training can you do to mitigate the miscommunication between the ATC and the pilots?
Actually, a little bit of history here. At the time, the Taiwan aviation industry, because it's still part of China, so a lot of its regulations were not pushed forward. So this CKS airport, there was supposed to be this ASDE, the airport surface ground detection equipment, which would have indicated very clearly to the ATC that the pilot was on the wrong runway. But at the time, they had no this equipment, this ASD, so that the ATC could only visually confirm whether the aircraft was on the correct runway. Yeah, so actually, in fact, with the right infrastructure, the rest is just clear cut. So very obvious.
Sorry, but when you bring up the factor about human factor, because we know that when it comes to the aviation industry, they always consider human factor as one of the very important aspects. So what was the exact human factor that you guys were targeting at for your presentation?
So the human factors, because our presentation is only focusing on miscommunication. So as I presented just now, we actually analyzed the miscommunication among the 3 pilots. So in this case, it wasn't as much as miscommunication among 3 pilots, it was more of a lack of communication among these 3 pilots. So this lack of communication is one of the main human factors that actually resulted in this accident. because none of the co-pilots actually questioned the judgment of Captain Fong, who was the main pilot that day. Yeah.
So it was in terms of like the attitude and the behavior.
Yeah, it was like a sort of a culture during that time period, because 2000 is 15 years ago already. Yeah, so during that time period it was more like that. Yeah. So any other questions?
That's one question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.